Hello, Internet. Um, Good to see you guys. It's been, I think, about 12 or 13 days, almost 2 weeks. And as you know, I'm in between treatments, and there's not a lot of new information as far as myself personally, uh, and in terms of my disease and treatments, there's absolutely nothing. I'm definitely in sort of that in between stage where it's been a few weeks since my last appointments and my last scans and blood work, and it's still a few weeks before my next comprehensive evaluation, which is going to be on the 31st of July. And I think I have mentioned that a few times. So I am really in this sort of no man's land in the middle of summer when all of my side effects have faded away from my last treatment, which finished up on the 22nd of April, May, June. So it's been 2.5 months that my body has had a chance to totally recover. And I would have to say that I am 100% beyond any of my treatment side effects. So that means I'm getting to enjoy the summer season. And as you know, I went on a big road trip, camping trip to the Northern Rockies last month. Just about a month ago, I was coming back from that trip. And we've had family birthdays and, of course, the 4th of July. And I am gearing up for another camping trip. I plan to head up to northern Minnesota, the Superior National Forest. If you've never been up there, my gosh, it's one of my favorite. You know, I have certain places in the world that I love so much. Northern India, the Himalayas of northern India, of course. The beaches of Thailand are another wonderful place that I have great memories, because when I lived in India, I used to have to go to Thailand for my visa runs because I had to leave India every 6 months. I lived in Hawaii back about 25 to 30 years ago. It's hard to believe. Between 1997 and about 2002, I lived on the big island of Hawaii, and I love that place. But it's so interesting that still right up there with those exotic locations, the Himalayas of northern India, the beaches of Thailand, and the big island of Hawaii, I love, love, love northern Minnesota. The North Shore of Lake Superior, the Chippewa National Forest, the Superior National Forest. You know, I didn't get up there last summer. I don't remember exactly why, but things that were going on my schedule and maybe post treatment last year, I don't remember exactly what, but I skipped a summer of going up to do some camping up in northern Minnesota, and I have, gosh, a whole handful, half a dozen places that I love up there. Some of them are national forest campsites. As you know, you guys know, I do tent camping basically. And there's national forest sites which you have to pay for, but they're not very expensive. They're like in between $15 and $22 or $25 a night, and beautiful campsites that are on the shore of beautiful lakes near the Boundary Waters, or right on the border of the Boundary Waters in extreme northern Minnesota. But then there are also rustic backcountry sites where there are gravel roads, so you can drive to these sites, and they do typically have like a vault toilet, but they do not have trash pickup, they do not have running water, and they're free. And there's a few of those sites at places like 18 Mile Lake, Baker Lake, Kawishwe. Those places, I don't know, I have so many great memories of being up there. But the problem this time of year, the Russian roulette, the crapshoot of it all, is that here in Minnesota, we have a very short summer season. And during the middle of that summer season, we deal with bugs. You know, there's a joke that the state bird of Minnesota is the mosquito. So I am planning to head up there next week for just probably a 4-night camping trip, but I am very well aware of the fact that I could end up in a swarm of mosquitoes and gnats. Now, there have been times when that hasn't been such a bad issue, but I have had experiences in the middle of the summer where it's almost impossible to enjoy yourself. I do have like mosquito gear, like the hat with the net that comes down, and then you wear long sleeve kind of nylon shirts, and of course you have to spray yourself with mosquito repellent. I've accumulated all that equipment over the years, but yeah, you never know. You know, there's always challenges, whatever you do, unless you're going to stay in a 5-star hotel. And even then, there are problems sometimes. Okay, I'm already 6 minutes in, but one of the things I wanted to talk about in this video is grief and loss. I know that's a major theme on my channel, and I also know that's kind of a negative or depressing or gloomy topic, but it's the reality of being on this earth, and I don't want to avoid that. And I guess if you don't want to hear that, you can switch off the video and go somewhere else, because what I've been dealing with the last 3 years and 8 months now, and my stage of life, I have crossed into my 60s. I know a lot of people who are sick and struggling with illness, and we have been surrounded by death in the last few years in my family. And, you know, I'm probably going to title this video something to the effect of grief and loss, and how it becomes normalized in your life. And I know there's some of you that I love and we are close, and you're watching right now and you've experienced this yourself. But part of being human and being on this earth is dealing with grief and loss and death. And it really has been prevalent for not only me, but especially my family and my extended family. And, you know, we all have these concentric circles of friendships and relationships. And there has been so much grief and death and loss amongst those circles in the last few years. And I won't list them all right now, but even just 1 week ago, we had a very, very close family friend pass away. His name was Dean, and he was a neighbor to my parents, and like he and his wife Kathy, you know, very close family friends, like to the point where they feel like relatives. He was my very first boss because he owned a couple of grocery stores here in the Twin Cities area. And other than my paper route and babysitting, my very first like real corporate job was with his grocery store, bagging groceries when I was 16 years old. And then later in life, Dean and I were really good friends, and, you know, could always sit and chop it up together and have great conversations. And he passed away about exactly a week ago, very suddenly, unexpectedly. And again, that's another topic. Those of you who follow channels on death and dying and hospice and things like that, you know, it's so interesting how, you know, people with chronic diseases tend to decline slowly on the stair-step method. And then other people with acute situations like a sudden heart attack or very aggressive cancer, you know, or even just accidents, strokes, they're here today, gone tomorrow. And you don't have time to get used to it. You don't have time to adapt to the thought or the idea of losing that person. And that's kind of what happened to Dean. I mean, he was in his 80s and he did have some issues, but he was the kind of guy who wanted to die with his boots on. He was a busy dude. He was pushing and living life and staying active. And we would always just be shocked at how he was still out in the yard, you know, on his lawnmower and golfing and going back and forth to, they had a lake house up north. And the guy did not, you know, sit still all that much. And he definitely died on his feet with his boots on, which is what he would have loved to have done. There's an albino squirrel right there. That's our little buddy. But anyway, many of you know I lost, you know, an aunt about exactly a year ago, very close aunt. And my Uncle Max watches these videos. Hi, Max, I'll see you next month. And we're still recovering from that. We've lost other close friends and neighbors. I have lost guys in my men's cancer group who I had developed relationships with, one especially in early March. His name was Tony, and he passed away. He was only in his 50s, and he passed away from pancreatic cancer. And he and I had a close, you know, relatively close friendship. And I could go on and on. It's just, it seems like, honestly, it's almost a weekly or a bi-weekly or a monthly event that somebody departs from this earth who is close and on some sort of an intimate level. And again, you're all in the same situation. You know, like I said, I'm into my early 60s now, so all of my friends are in that same age range. We have parents that are dropping like flies. I hope that's not insensitive to say, but it really is the truth. People in their 80s and 90s start to drop like flies. It's like every time you turn around, somebody's gone. And so there's this constant cycle of grief and loss. And, you know, my last video was about learning to be content. And I guess this is sort of a part 2 to that, because we have to accept and we have to be content in being able to say goodbye to people that we are close to, whether they are close family members or close friends, or maybe just 1 or 2 degrees of separation from us. This is part of the human experience. Is it not? To watch those that we care about depart and leave a vacuum in their wake. And we have to somehow adapt to that, knowing that that time is coming for each one of us as well. And to finish up this video, we're already at 13 minutes, but I guess my point is, it needs to be normalized. It needs to be something that is on the regular. Otherwise, we spend all of our time being in shock about something that we think is so horrible and unusual, when actually, you know, I've said this for years, why is death any different than birth? We are all born, but we will also all draw our last breath. It's just completely natural. And it's a little bit hard to accept, but I think we have to learn to accept it and maybe even celebrate it if that's possible. So, okay, that's all I have to say today. I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July, our nation's 250th, and enjoy the rest of your summer. I will try to be back in a couple of weeks at the most. Bye-bye.